I was only there for 2 weeks. So there was a party or something, and everybody was playing volleyball and all that, and I started crying. And Fred was there, and he's goes, are you okay? And I said, yes. He said, what's wrong? And I go, I just think I'm gonna have to come here every year for the rest of my life. And I started crying.
I got a pickup truck and I headed for Alaska, searching for adventure. And I found more than I could ever ask for. Took the ferry to Juneau and then on up to Haines and drove up to the interior. When we drove through from Haines Junction to Beaver Creek, we crossed Beaver Creek into Alaska proper, and there was a double rainbow, and it was like, yeah, this feels like home.
As an ecologist and geologist, an extremely exciting place, biotically and geologically. I always love to go there and look things over and try to puzzle out what the rocks you can see. I'm sure just looking around, even if you're a non-geologist, you can see how complicated it is. It's every place you look at rocks different, and it's so cool to try to figure that out. And in those days, I was a young scientist, just absorbing everything I could, and it was just one of the sort of the hot spots around. There was something sort of inherently powerful about islands that could stand up. I could just feel that rock standing up to the ice for thousands of years.
I followed a man to Alaska in 1973, and I've been here ever since. The Hobbit Hole story starts in the winter of 74-75. I flew out to Elfin Cove with a friend and saw the Hobbit Hole and heard that it was out there. And at that time, that was the dream of all of our lives, was to live in the bush and to have a place like that. And the next summer, I came fishing. I spent the winter in Elfin Cove. Partway through the winter, that was when the hippies versus the rednecks was absolutely horrible. And there were a number of people in Elfin Cove who thought I was white trash and they wanted me out. And it finally got to me, so I got in my kayak and started kayaking across South Pass because I knew there were a couple of guys over at the Hobbit Hole. And I sort of didn't leave for 18, 19 years. At any rate, the original crew was Greg and Fred, Reba, Van, and Ronald. Those were the 5 guys. And I joined them. And, we all shared the cooking, we shared the work, we acted like a commune, although Greg and Fred were sort of supporting all of us. We all chipped in our ways. And the Hobbit Hole sort of grew from there.
And so I started looking for a job as a deckhand on a reel boat that actually made money on a reel troller. And I was just thinking about this as I was walking up here. I heard about the Hobbit Hole and that there were trollers based out of here, and that there were these 2 brothers, and I heard that they wanted, needed a deckhand, but they didn't want to hire women. And really? And I can't believe I did this now, but I wrote this really snarky letter to people I'd never met. It's like, well, I hear you don't hire women. Well, let me tell you a thing or two about what you're missing by not hiring women. I can't imagine what they did with the other letter, because of course they were completely enthralled with having women. It was a great combination. And Fred wrote back to me saying, I don't know where you got that idea, but you're so wrong. And he already had somebody for the summer. He said, if you want to go up Fish Kings with me, I'll do that. Anyway, so I ended up here. And I got out here by catching a ride from Teneke on a friend's, who was a troller, fishing boat. And I fell asleep, and I remember waking up just coming through the passes here, headed Elfin Cove, and you've seen the view now. When it was at the mountains, it's like, this is the center of the universe. It's just such a fantastic place. I was completely smitten from the moment I set foot here. I had significant opportunities that I passed up because I wanted this life more than anything else at the time.
I definitely got a unique experience at the Hobbit Hole, being like one of the only kids there and having to come up with your own games, and you create kind of your own world in a way. Yeah, I mean, at the Hobbit Hole we just kind of had free range, and the yards were kind of bigger. The trees weren't so overgrown, so there was more sunlight, and it's a big area, big playground kind of, and there was a volleyball court, and the fishermen had a little more time. It seems like they were taking a little time off to all relax and have a party now and then in the sun and have a volleyball game. And it's interesting now that I have kids to think about them growing up out here and how to give them, everything, give them the freedom and that feeling of just being a kid in paradise wilderness with wild strawberries and blueberries to eat, and you're catching fish in tide pools and with a fishing pole and camping out and cooking them up right there on the beach and stuff.
Yeah, very. It was one of those golden times. It just had this wonderful smell that I'll get whiffs of it every once in a while. It just wants to bring me to my knees. It's so lovely. And that golden feeling at the Hobbit. I look at that picture of Tyga with the cauliflower. Those days on the porch, in the sun, all sitting around and just being together. That was just an amazing, special time.
I think Robert Service said something to the effect that Alaska is the last place you want to send a young man because it will ruin the rest of the world for him.
Yep. This is a place that just feels like home, and when I'm coming here and leaving here, it like wrenches on my heartstrings,